Bon après-midi. Good afternoon. Welcome to everyone this afternoon. Great crowd on hand, and it's an exciting time for not just Moncton, not just southeastern New Brunswick, but the entire province of New Brunswick. We are thrilled with what's going to be unveiled here in the next few minutes, and we thank you all for being here. It's great to see a live, full house for a really good announcement for our province. Some housekeeping items right off the top. Easy to say. Those of you who may not have had a chance to get a translation device beforehand, we still have a few available in the entranceway. I'd ask you to make your way there now to get the translation device. And we will remind you that Channel 1 is English and Channel 2 is French. I have a few friends in the audience that I'd really like to recognize. I say friends, but honored guests that are here with us today. First of all, Mr. Daniel Alain, the MLA from Moncton East. Thank you for being here. And all the way from Miramichi, the city of Miramichi, of course, Michelle Conray. Thank you for being here. And Mayor Donald Arnold, your worship from the city of Moncton. Thank you for being here as well. As Minister responsible for opportunities in New Brunswick, Minister responsible for economic development and small business, and as MLA for Moncton South, it is certainly a privilege to welcome everyone to today's announcement. Je voudrais commencer par
I would like to begin by thanking everybody who is here today.
everyone at the front table. To my right, Haley Flero, Executive Director of Ability New Brunswick. Next to Haley is my cabinet colleague, Jill Green, Minister of Social Development and Minister responsible for the New Brunswick Housing Corporation. A co-tated Minister Green, next to Minister Noel, representing the New Brunswick Nonprofit Housing Association. I'm reading the script that I have, but obviously they're not quite in that order, but it's wonderful to have Roland Rader beside me, actually. And last but not least, Perry Kendall with Habitat for Humanity, New Brunswick. The housing crisis impacts all of us in the province in one way or another. As Minister responsible for economic development, I am aware of the impact from the lack of workforce housing, especially in smaller communities. It's causing problems for recruitment and retention of workers, which in turn impacts the economic growth in communities around the province, as we've all seen and we all understand. And I'll let my colleague, Minister Green, give you the details. I will say I'm very excited about the comprehensive approach that this strategy has taken in addressing many different housing needs in our province. I know I had the opportunity of 2 years ago, basically this month, to meet with the Premier one-on-one, and the question to me was, what does your riding need? What are the issues in Moncton South? I said, you know, Premier, we have a lot of issues in Moncton South. And I said, you know what? I don't want to dwell on a whole lot of issues. I want to dwell on one issue, and it's called housing. If we had housing for every New Brunswicker that doesn't have housing today, that would solve so many of our problems. And he said, what does that look like? I said, I think it's deserving of a ministry of its own. There are so many different ministries in this province that are involved in housing, and it goes from DTI, and it goes to PEDAL, and it goes to social development, and it goes to health, and it goes to ONB. Everybody had a piece of the action, but it wasn't a coordinated effort. And he said, let me look at that. Let me think about that. Well, about 8 months ago, he made a ministry of housing, and my colleague, Minister Green, became the minister at the time, and in 8 short months, she's had the opportunity to head this up and put this all together with a lot of you having input into it. And we're going to hear that vision and that plan, and it's a great plan. We're going to hear about that in just a few moments. But my other reason for this, what I've learned in my short political career, and it is short, thanking Mayor Arnold, we had 4 great years with the city of Moncton and a few wonderful years so far with the province of New Brunswick. But if you don't have a roof over your head, you cannot survive in this province or in this country. Your health care, your family, your work opportunities for work, your opportunities for food security, your opportunities for education, all those go out the window if you don't have that roof over your head. It starts with a roof over your head, and everything else falls from there, falls down from there, falls out from there. So it's so important. It's so important. So anyway, we're going to move forward, and I appreciate everything you're going to hear today. And I'm fortunate, as you can tell, we are live streamed, so that folks around New Brunswick and around the world are watching, and they can hear exactly what our vision is here in the province of New Brunswick. And with that, I will invite Minister Green to the podium to give you the highlights of our new Housing for All strategy. Minister Green.
Thank you very much, Minister Turner. It's kind of fun to call you that. And I want to really thank my colleagues for being in the room to support me today. Michelle Conroy and Danielle Alain. I really appreciate you both being here to support me. There was a article I saw with a headline of something about long-awaited strategy. And as Greg said, I got made minister responsible for housing 8 months ago, promised this strategy by the end of June, and there was a gargantuan effort to pull that together and get that done. And coming from the business sector, we're used to just snapping our fingers and getting stuff done. But in government, there is process. There are approvals you have to get. You have to get your cabinet team on board. You need your caucus on board. You need all the deputy ministers supporting you. And when you have an issue like the housing crisis that we have here in New Brunswick, it really takes all hands on deck. And I've been saying that since I started working on this ministry and working on this housing file. And part of the work we've done is bring all the stakeholders together to find out where the gaps are in our current system, where the pain points are, and what lift each of the stakeholders is doing to contribute to the solution that we need here in New Brunswick. And I got to say thank you very much to the stakeholders, because you have jumped on board, you have shared, you have opened your books to us, you have shared the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we were fortunate enough to have 2 housing summits in the last 8 months. One was a virtual summit where we began to form what the problem was and understand some of the gaps that were there. And then we had our one-day session in St. John in early May, where we had, I think there was 170 stakeholders there, but there was over 200 people in that room. And it was an honest sharing of concerns, but also providing innovative ideas on what we can do as a province to make things better for New Brunswickers and make things better for the housing situation in New Brunswick. And from that housing summit, we had over 100 ideas, innovative ideas of things we could implement across the province to make a difference. And from there was a huge all-government lift. We looked at all the 100 different ideas, and we began to narrow them down. We began to understand what it would cost for the province to implement these, what the impact would be, whether it is just a regional impact or an all-of-province impact. And we narrowed it down to the things that we could implement quickly and have the biggest impact on New Brunswickers. And the strategy has now been released online, and it provides solutions under 4 different pillars. So we've called this strategy Housing for All. And the different pillars that we are providing opportunities and solutions in is a healthy and competitive housing market, affordable homes for low to mid-income earners, a safe home for vulnerable New Brunswickers, and a strong foundation for our housing system. And within each of those pillars, there are a number of different new programs or existing programs that we are enhancing to provide better, safe, adequate housing solutions for all of New Brunswickers. And as Minister Turner said, housing is a determinant of so many other outcomes, and that is so important for all of New Brunswick. So we've talked a lot about what the root causes are. This is a problem that's been in the making for decades, and we're experiencing record population growth, changing housing preferences. So we have seniors are downsizing to apartments. We have newcomers and young adults that prefer to rent rather than own. We have a lack of supply. We talk a lot about our vacancy rate and how low it is. It is definitely an issue for us. And then on top of that, we have labor shortages. So our skilled trades, 25% of the skilled trades that are working in residential construction are over 55 years old. So even though we don't have enough skilled trades now, it's going to get worse over time. It's not going to get better. And we're still doing a wonderful job in immigration and growing our population. So that's not going to change either. That's going to continue to put pressure on the system. So this plan and this strategy provides all kinds of enablers to support the good work that our stakeholders are doing out there and changing the way government is approaching solving this problem as well. So when I said it's an all-government solution, it truly is. We have post-secondary education, training and labor lifting part of this. Finance and Treasury Board is lifting this. Service New Brunswick is lifting this. Local government is lifting this in transportation and infrastructure and Opportunities New Brunswick, along with the new Housing NB Corporation. And so each one of us have a part to play in this, and each one of us has stepped up and said, this is my role, and this is how I'm going to contribute. Oh, and I forgot the Regional Development Corporation as well as part of this, because we are creating some new funds under this as well to support. Thank you. So I'm going to highlight just a few of the really exciting things that are in the strategy. It is out there and released now, so everybody can take a look. But this strategy is providing $500 million, actually more than $500 million worth of support to solve this housing issue in New Brunswick over the next 3 years. It is a huge lift for the province, and I'm so excited that we've come together and developed all these new programs. So for employers and workers, we have created a rapid rural workforce housing pilot with the goal of having employers involved with workforce housing in the rural parts of New Brunswick. They have explained to us the pain, and the communities have explained to us. We have growing businesses, commercial entities in New Brunswick, and they have nowhere for their new employees and their growing population to live. At the same time, we have communities that are struggling with enough homes and doors for their population, and the two are banging up against each other because the workforce housing needs it and the community needs it. So we have developed a rapid rural workforce housing pilot and are contributing $10 million to that fund to help employers provide housing for their employees. And we will be partnering with the Housing Hub of New Brunswick on that program. This is also something that the federal government has engaged with us on, and they are going to be part of this and contributing to this pilot as well. And we're just working out the last few details of that. So I need to thank the Federal Minister of Housing very much for being very supportive of this program. For tenants, so at the Housing Summit, there was a number of people that slipped me little notes, and on those little notes there was 2 words, rent bank. And I got it several times, and in fact somebody left at the end of the summit and ran back in and handed me the word rent bank again before she left. So I could not forget about a rent bank. So for tenants, we have created a $3 million fund over the next 2 years that it will be a rent bank for tenants in New Brunswick. And this will help New Brunswickers that have unexpected things happen in their lives that puts financial stress on them, so that we can help them over that hump and make it so that they can maintain their housing and stay safely housed. For tenants, so this is the biggest game changer in the entire strategy, in my opinion. And for so many different reasons, this is, I think, the biggest game changer. We have are going to provide $22 million fund annually that is a direct-to-tenant rental benefit. So this rental benefit goes directly to the tenant. It does not go to the landlord. The tenant's neighbors do not know they're receiving this benefit. And this is to reduce our housing wait list by at least 3,000 immediately. So this program is going to be put in place immediately. This is above and beyond all our other rental assistance programs. And this is $22 million a year to go directly to tenants to help them with the rising costs of rent in New Brunswick. And that, I think this is the single most important thing in this strategy, although there's a huge amount of other things within the strategy as well. And that one has a particular impact on people with disabilities and people that are vulnerable. I've heard it over and over again, so I hope Haley talks about it a little bit when she gets up and does her speech on what a difference it's going to make. Okay, you borrowed my pen, good. So we have also heard about student housing and how there's not enough on-campus housing for students. that our campuses are growing. We're bringing more students in to train them here in New Brunswick, and they are putting pressure on housing within the communities they are located in. So we are launching the New Brunswick Public University Student Housing On-Campus Fund. So that's a new fund that will be administered by Post-Secondary Education, Training, and Labor, where we will contribute to student housing for on-campus at our public universities. The goal with this fund is to increase our on-campus student housing by 3,300 doors over the next few years. So that will have a big impact on the communities they are within as well. Another great idea that we've talked about a lot with our stakeholders is surplus property, government-owned surplus property. And a commitment has been made within the strategy to move surplus property to the Housing Corporation much faster than they have in the past. And I can tell you the work is happening now. We had a workshop last week with Transportation and Infrastructure, Treasury Board, and Service New Brunswick, and they identified 50 to 60 properties right off the top that will be good for affordable housing development. So we're really excited about that, and we will be engaging with the communities that we have identified these properties in to get those properties moving into affordable housing as quickly as we possibly can, and we'll continue that work. It'll be ongoing work. So we've already announced our $100 million we're going to be spending on more public housing units. We've got the work going very quickly on that, and the team is being built around to get that done. But the other thing that was a gap that we had is that we did not provide any funding towards Habitat for Humanity and the work that they do for in vulnerable housing, people that are vulnerable in their housing. And so we've made a change in our policy so that we are now going to fund Habitat for Humanity, and we will contribute at $70,000 a door for up to 10 homes a year to support the great work they do. So hopefully they can take that money and put things on steroids a little bit for us. We're also investing in our strategic partners. They are doing a huge amount of work around our current housing stock, keeping it in good repair. Our not-for-profits, they are responsible for 6,500 units in New Brunswick, and they need our support to continue the work they're doing and to get more nonprofits involved in the housing spectrum. So we have funding available for our public, our not-for-profit housing association as well. So that's involved in there. Another thing that we talked about a lot with the stakeholders is the issue around regional transportation. And New Brunswick is quite a rural province. We're spread out from each other and not a lot of transportation options available. So Regional Development Corporation is going to be working with local government and communities and the Economic and Social Inclusion Network to move that file forward as well and really work on solutions for regional transportation in New Brunswick as well. That's included in the plan. Also, our communities have told us that although they have land available to build on, to build developments, affordable housing, market housing, they don't have the infrastructure in the ground to be able to activate those properties. So through the Regional Development Corporation, we've not only developed an ongoing fund for feasibility studies and preliminary engineering plans for these communities and not-for-profits and municipalities, but we've also created a $20 million annual infrastructure fund that communities can use to activate the lands that we have within these smaller communities. Now, we also heard that, and I've talked about it earlier on, that we don't have enough people working within the skilled trades to support all the work that we need to have happen, because within this strategy, we actually set targets for ourselves. So we're going to measure our progress. We need to be building 6,000 new housing starts a year, and our highest year on record, we had 4,680 units started, and that was last year. It's not enough. It's not enough for the growth that we've experienced, and it's not enough for the growth that we plan going forward. So we are committing to getting to 6,000, and all these enablers within the housing strategy is meant to get us there. But we'll be watching that and keeping an eye on that. And if we're not moving towards the targets and the goals that we have set for ourselves, we will make adjustments and we will make changes. So part of this is also a skilled worker action plan that the Post-Secondary Education Training and Labor is taking that on for us. We've committed funding every year towards this program, and they are going to go out and find us Red Seal workers to bring into our province. Although they're going to need homes as well, at least they can help us build them. And also to do more enhanced training for our New Brunswickers that are interested in getting into the skilled trades. So they're going to remove barriers and speed up processes for us as well. So got to thank them for that. One of the things that is not in here, and I know everybody's going to ask me about it if I don't talk about it, so I'm going to talk about it. The rent cap is not in the strategy. And when we had our housing summit, we started the housing summit asking, does anybody have one single solution that is going to solve the housing crisis here in New Brunswick? And not one person got up and had the single solution that's going to solve the housing crisis. This strategy supports 4 different pillars to keep the building going, to satisfy the new supply that we need and to support it so that it actually can happen. We're putting funding in place. We're increasing the contributions that the province is making towards our affordable housing units. We're providing more rental supplements directly to tenants. We've put a number of new rent control measures in place over the last few years, and we will continue on with those. The one thing I will say about this plan is this is a start. This is not the finish. So it provides many ways that we're going to contribute and help solve the housing crisis, but we will add and change as we need to, as necessary. We've shown we can put this strategy together in a very short period of time, and we can adjust as we go forward, and we will adjust. So I just want to say thank you, to the lift that all of government has done around supporting us to get this housing strategy completed, and each of them stepping up and taking part in this. I want to thank my colleagues so much for supporting me through this. I needed you guys on board, and you supported me when I needed to get approvals and get it across the finish line in cabinet. And I was asking for a lot of money, and as you can guess, sometimes it's difficult to get a yes on getting a lot of money to put towards something. And nobody questioned what we were doing, and always said yes when we asked for more money, because we have everything to support that we need to do this to make a huge difference in New Brunswick. And I want to thank all the stakeholders that were part of this. We listened to you, we heard you. We have the other 80 innovative ideas. It's still on our list, and we're still working through it. So just because it may not be in here doesn't mean it won't be in the next iteration of this. So thank you all very, very much.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you, Minister Green. I sort of had a sneak preview. I kind of knew what to expect, and I was excited. It's sort of like Christmas morning when you're waiting to get those gifts unwrapped. But thank you for unwrapping the gift. I think that's going to really change New Brunswick and lives for a lot of New Brunswickers in the future. Thank you for that. Minister Green talked about the valuable input and collaboration amongst stakeholders. We are all fortunate to have some of those valued stakeholders with us here today. I would at first like to invite Haley Flero to say a few words.
Thank you. Bon après-midi. Nice to see everyone this afternoon. I can only have 3 minutes, and you made all these announcements. I first want to recognize Matt Steam from our board of directors, who took time off work to be with here, probably to keep me in line, right, Matt? Our board of directors at Ability New Brunswick, we work with people with a mobility disability throughout the province, and we spent days on our new strategic plan, and the biggest public policy priority for our population is housing. In my 25 years in nonprofit, we are in the worst housing crisis I've ever experienced as a community-based worker. However, this is a really hopeful day. How many people in this room would consider yourself a doer? Don't make me come put your hands up. I know who you are. Mayor Arnold, come on. Lots of doers in this room. I've been around in New Brunswick for, like I said, 25 years in nonprofit, and this plan, government can't do it alone. And so we need the doers and the implementers because we can't have any more reports on a shelf. And this one offers so many things for the different sectors that are involved. We can't look to Saskatchewan or Manitoba and replicate their strategies because we are unique. We have the oldest population in Canada, and with age comes disability. We have the second highest rate of disability in Canada, next only to Nova Scotia. We're 50% rural. Single parents and people with a disability are the most impoverished in our province, and housing is a considerable issue. This plan today is a Made in New Brunswick plan, and seeing all the stakeholder engagement and all the nonprofits engaged in this plan and the actual, these aren't just increase, enhance, this is, we're doing this. And so that is really, really hopeful to me. I want to list everything, but I'm really excited about the additional funds for home modifications. We have people waiting in hospital for months that need their doors widened and their bathrooms retrofitted. This is going to do that. Autonomy over your rent and being able to choose where you live, that's independence. Modifications that can help nonprofits become more inclusive. Do you know that we have one of the lowest number of accessible shelters and transition houses in Canada? Imagine that population can't get access to that. There is so much hope here. Student housing. Accessible housing for a student costs twice that of a student who doesn't need accessible housing, and they get the same student loans. This fund has hope and opportunity. There's so much more I can say, but I will end that we really share a vision, even with public housing. Public housing doesn't need to be segregated housing anymore. We can have public housing that's dispersed, mixed income, and inclusive in our communities, so we're all supporting each other. So I'm way over my 3 minutes, but I'm very excited. And, you know, leadership is so important. This isn't a partisan strategy. This is what needs to happen. And I love hearing the reiteration that all of the recommendations are not lost. There was like 6 or 7 of mine that didn't make it in here, but we know they're coming. And so I challenge all of you to get behind this, to be the implementers. Don't pick up your ball and go home, and let's get this done together. Lastly, I want to say that it was really yesterday where it struck me that we have an authentic leader implementing this plan. Because if you look at some of the photo ops yesterday, all of these dark suits and then this peach power suit with the funky shoes, that's all I needed, because authentic leadership is where we need to do something different. This is different, this is specific, and I really look forward to all of us, even after 20 years, 25 years, I'm not a cynic. I know that this is foundational. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, Haley. The words are really well spoken from the heart. And I know, like you say, you've been at this for many, many years, and it's wonderful to see where we're heading. And we thank you for your input and your work on these files. Maintenant, je voudrais demander.
I would now ask Roland Noël to come to say a few words.
Words. Welcome.
C'est pas ma force faire des discours.
Speeches is not my strong point. Today I'm wearing 2 different hats. I am the president of the Nonprofit Housing Association of New Brunswick, which represents about 200 members. And I'm also CEO of Résidence Habitat Soleil in Bathurst that offers affordable housing and has done so for over 15 years. And I think the initiatives presented by the minister in this strategy today will answer a lot of our needs, and I'm very happy to participate in it. And I'd like to thank you for having talked about the importance of the association in the new housing strategy. And on that, we will continue to work very hard, and I hope that the government will be able to speed up the process to allow us to build housing even quicker than currently. Thank you, and have a great afternoon.
Merci beaucoup, Roland. Thank you very much. There is no question of the important role nonprofits play in providing affordable housing in New Brunswick. And great news about the new programs and funding in the strategy to support the valuable work that you do. Now, I'd like to invite Perry Kendall from Habitat for Humanity, another group that does amazing work enabling people to become homeowners in our province. Mr. Kendall.
Thank you, and good afternoon. Minister Green, it's an absolute pleasure to be standing here today. On April 1st of this year, Habitat for Humanity, St. John, Fredericton, and Moncton officially amalgamated to become Habitat for Humanity New Brunswick. As a stronger, more sustainable organization, Habitat for Humanity New Brunswick is focused on increasing our impact through a stronger voice for affordable housing, building more homes, and helping many more families achieve affordable home ownership. Habitat for Humanity brings communities together to help families build strength, stability, and independence through affordable home ownership. The Habitat mortgage model is part of the magic. It includes a no down payment, no interest mortgage with payments geared to income. So at no point are families ever paying more than 25% of their gross income, excluding child benefits, towards housing, which makes such a difference for those families. We are very happy to recognize the government of New Brunswick for taking action and answering a call to collaborate with those working to provide affordable housing options like Habitat for Humanity. This support will help us to build more homes each year than we ever have before and help to transform the lives of many more New Brunswick families living in lower income situations. This year we have 8 home builds in progress or recently completed across the province. We also have other important plans, including a brand new homeowner education program for families partnered with us, as well as increasing our affordable housing advocacy efforts. With this support, our plans are now significantly more ambitious, and we are absolutely thrilled to be doing that. So, thank you.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you, Perry, Haley, and Roland, and everyone who contributed their suggestions and ideas to this strategy. There are so many great initiatives and projects happening to improve housing options in New Brunswick, and an important part of this strategy is supporting the organizations that make this happen. And these are some of the people here, and there's obviously a lot more in the audience. We need everybody working together, obviously, for the success that we see this strategy bringing to our province. Il faudra que nous travaillons.
We have to continue to work together in order to meet the challenge.
To meet the housing challenges. Thank you to those who came in person today and for those tuning in online. We appreciate your attendance and your interest and your support. This concludes today's announcement. Thank you very, very much, and thank you to Minister Green. We appreciate you being here.